And today we want to discuss the DA's new proposed bill to replace the BEE codes. If you look through it, the big conversation is about ownership and so on, driving black or race-based policies versus poverty, and affecting change on the grassroots level. What's your opinion on this new bill?
Well, it's about as populist as the ANC stuff. The DA's constituents, there's a broader range of racial groups that make it up. And probably quite a large number of white people who have looked at this B thing, they're looking at their children and saying, what opportunities are there for our children, and what are the opportunities for people in businesses and working and things like that. So they're trying to create a broader umbrella of beneficiaries in the process. So it's just populism. Um, they know they're going to come up against the ANC, and I think they're just testing the water. They just want to see how far they can push the ANC, which I think they've done quite well. Because Cyril has gone off and he's been in Parliament and said B is very much a part of the future of our country, and we will not do anything to change it. Of course, Cyril doesn't understand that he doesn't control BE at all. It's the private sector that controls BE. If you ask Wayne Duvenage and Outer as to how they got rid of the e-tolls in Gauteng, it's exactly what happens to BE. BE is not going to die because because Cyril says it's going to continue. It's going to die because people have had enough of it.
Very much so. So if you look at the way they want to implement this, they want to change the Procurement Act. And then through changing that, rather than looking at race, they want to incentivize or use job creation, skills development, and sustainability impact to measure your procurement, and to give you points on that. Do you think that is an effective way?
It's about as effective as BE is right now. You and I know that, in fact, we did a course showing people how to comply with BE by spending absolutely no money and doing very, very little and still getting the points. How are you going to measure it? How are you going to measure it? How are you going to manage it without micromanaging every single company? Are you going to get the verification agencies to go off and measure it? They're just going to measure, they're going to measure the statistics they're given or the information they're given. Doesn't mean that there's an impact. That's ludicrous. You can't measure it. You can't measure for impact. You can only measure for points.
So if you look at this in terms of the current structures of BE versus this proposed bill, we're looking at a few people, and it's been in the news recently as well, a few people that have been politically connected and they're dominating and they're getting a lot of contracts and getting a lot of money, versus what the DA believes would be a broader spread of a lot of people benefiting from that. Do you see the same happening through this bill, or is it just wishful thinking?
It's going to be a broader spread of few people, just broken down into different race groups, because they have the connections, and they have the connections in state procurement. And this is not a South African feature. Look what Donald Trump is doing in America at the moment. He's trying to make sure that his connections and his crypto buddies and all that kind of stuff, and the billionaires, the oligarchs, the tech oligarchs, are going to benefit from his entire thing. It's a global phenomenon. So no, it's not going to do anything, because human beings just aren't actually as charitable as they like to make out to be.
Good. Stance on transformation and what that is. Do you see this bill as an improvement on the ideology of transformation?
Ideology, yes, because poverty is poverty. Poverty has no racial feature to it. We can absolutely show that the majority of people living below the breadline and getting social grants are African. We can show that. But once poverty takes hold, I'll tell you an example. 15 years ago, And there have been a couple of examples of this. 15 years ago, FNB said that they would give bursaries to only black staff members. So our good friends from Solidarity, I say that euphemistically, Dirk Herman specifically, launched a campaign and said, "What are you doing? There are black people working at your bank who earn twice, three times more than some white people. Why should they benefit from it?" So FNB changed it and based it on a means test. Um, Recently, there was some hire thing from Discam saying we will only hire black people. There's something with Bidvest that they're doing something like it's all just ludicrous, you know. It's all ludicrous. But I seem to have lost my train of thought. You just steer me back on track.
Let's keep this and go towards the practical implementation. So currently we have the scorecard and that is measurable. And you mentioned you can't measure this. How do you see them physically implementing then on a practical level if the scorecard rules had to be changed?
Well, the only way they can do is go back to the way that they've done it. Just change, just say to the verification agency, these are the parameters by which you're going to measure things. I don't know how you measure it's you're asking for social change. Let's think of this in terms of a diet. Do you know that the average adult of a certain means, that is on diet for 1/7 of their adult life every Monday? And 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 the reason why they go off the diet is because they can't see the results immediately. The only way you're going to do this is if you have some long-term measurables and metrics that you use to measure to figure out what the effect is, and you know what you set a baseline. You say we don't want to be here anymore. One of the best ways of doing that is how many people are you taking off social grants? Then you're going to start seeing things work. That's what you want to do, and that's measurable. So if we've got 9 million people living off social grants and various other types of grants, and we reduce that down to 8.5 million in a couple of years, then we know we're making a difference. Otherwise you're stuck in the same B nonsense that we've had. Scorecard here, I must be a level one. Fine, I'll get you the points. Keep your hand in your pocket. You don't have to take anything out of it. Keep your wallet. Leave that checkbook alone.
Well, good. Unfair question. So we've previously discussed the 3% rule that Eleanor Craig and the guys are driving towards. And now the DA comes with this. So if you forget everything you know about the scorecard and the VE codes as they are, and you have to choose one of these two, what is your preferred one?
Definitely the DAs. Definitely the DAs. It's we're talking about South Africa now.
Yeah.
You can't decry the impact and the effect of apartheid, but you've got 1.5 generations of people who've grown up since the fall of apartheid, and there are portions of that society that are reminded on a very regular basis that that this is not for them.
Sure.
And so absolutely, it's taking South Africans into account. But 5 years ago, I went and did a presentation in Botswana. I went to go talk to them about BE. They said, "We don't know what you're talking about." They said, "We see everybody as a Botswanan. We don't see colors. We don't see anything. We don't understand what you're talking about." That's what the DA is asking for. But South Africa needs racial divides in order to survive. Well, that's the ANC policy. You've got to have racial divides in order to have some form of credibility. And it's a bit tired now.
Good. Thanks, Paul. I think we discussed what we needed to. Appreciate your time.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Rudolph.